been with Seattle Made and kind of, you know, their whole little bio. So let's bring on first, let's bring on Ron Lloyd. He is the president and CEO of San Juan Seltzer. Are we all here? I can't see if we're just individually here or we are just all here together. Well,
we're all here.
Okay, good. Okay, I wasn't sure if like I'm just seeing myself or, you know. Anywho, Ron, down there, give us a little wave. Tell us a little bit about San Juan Seltzer.
Sure, and we'll make sure there's no debating going on tonight. We'll all record it.
Friendly debating amongst our industry, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm Ron Lloyd. It's a pleasure to be here. I guess I'm the newbie to Seattle Made. It's a privilege to be part of it. San Juan Seltzer was founded about 3 years ago. We did not have our first commercial product out into the marketplace until roughly 2 years ago. And if it wasn't for great partners and suppliers here locally, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we've done. So I'm looking forward to, meeting new people and learning from everybody here on the line together tonight.
Awesome. Wonderful. Let's go, I guess, to the right now of us. And we have got Jody Elsom, owner and winemaker extraordinaire of Elsom Cellars. Tell us a little bit about Elsom, Jody.
Perfect. Thank you. I started the winery in 2006, and we've spent the majority of that time in Soto. So we are one of few wineries that actually produce on site. So it's pretty exciting. And us too are family owned, women run, women owned wineries. So woohoo! Shout out to that, right? We make predominantly red wines. This year we ventured into the white wine arena, which has been pretty exciting. But we have a lovely little event venue and tasting room and production facility right down in Soto. And hopefully someday soon you guys can come out and visit us. We've been Seattle Made members for several years and love the relationship and partnership. So,
and this is going to be a nice mix because we do have some new members and some old ones. And so, we can kind of talk about, what it's done for you guys. And then Brian Teal, he is the co-owner of Ghost Fish Brewing, the only gluten-free brewery in the Seattle area, if not Washington State.
Well, that was true up until early this year. There actually is a second dedicated gluten-free brewery up in West Seattle now, but we are the first dedicated gluten-free brewery in the state of Washington. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Teal, and thank you, Kristen. And thank you, SIP Magazine, and also Seattle Made for the invitation to be part of tonight's event. We've been members of Seattle Made, I think, just shortly after the first round of membership was opened up. And so we've appreciated that relationship very, very much. Ghost Fish started as an idea about 8 years ago. And a lot of people might be surprised that we did not have aspirations to be a dedicated gluten-free brewery right from the onset. We were just going to be another one of the now almost 400 plus or 450 breweries in the state of Washington. And it was a pivot and a shift that was made probably about a year into planning to pursue being a dedicated gluten-free brewery. And I think now almost 6 years into this venture, probably most people, understand that Ghost Fish does produce gluten-free beer. But to be perfectly honest with everybody, our target market is really not people who are gluten intolerant or celiacs. We actually make beer for beer drinkers. And so we decided very early on that if we set that bar at that level, then everybody could enjoy our beer. So we like to think of ourselves as an all-inclusive brewery and full kitchen restaurant located in the heart of Soto on First Avenue. And looking forward to tonight's event, and hopefully we get some good questions as well too.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Brian. And we've got Miss Mara Hardman, the PR and marketing manager of Seattle Cider Co. Also a good friend of mine. We have, we do a lot together. So super excited to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Seattle Cider?
Yeah, thank you. So as Kristen so aptly mentioned, yes, our paths have crossed since I've entered this industry, and I love that. But I'm the PR and marketing manager. My name is Mara. I use she, her, hers pronouns. And actually, Seattle Cider, we just celebrated 7 years. Our 7-year anniversary. We're located in Soto, so we are, produced in Seattle, which obviously makes sense, and have been members of Seattle Made for a number of years, actually before my time here, and I've been here for over 3.5 years now. We have a sibling company that's a brewery, Two Beers Brewing. We're coming up on 13 years there, and yeah, it's been kind of a wild and crazy year for sure. And looking forward to talking a little bit more about that and spending some time with all of these wonderful panelists.
Well, let's get right into it. I have got some questions. And so this is kind of, I don't really specifically have specific questions for each one of you. So feel free to jump in. I do have some questions for all of you, but let's kind of start off with this whole, we want to keep this very uplifting. This is not a Debbie Downer situation of COVID, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you from my business that a lot of really great things have come out of this and a lot of really cool innovation. And I think Seattle is the city of innovation. And that's in this time of COVID, what is something new and innovative that you've implemented and you're going to keep once COVID has passed? And so, Ron, why don't we start with you? But I certainly, I want you guys to kind of jump in wherever, is applicable. But I think this is just important for all of us to know as, not only consumers, but business owners and, what you're doing to adapt or thrive in this environment.
Right. Well, thank you for that question. It's a good one. And, nothing's more important than this topic, not just here on this call, but in the political debate, in the greater, this is a world issue and it affects all of us. But from our standpoint, I don't know this audience well, but in our case, it's kind of a tale of two stories where there's kind of two sides to our business. One is the off-premise business, which is, think of it as grocery stores, drug stores, club stores, et cetera, where you buy product to drink the product home. The other side of the business is on-premise. These are the restaurants, bars, winery tap rooms, brewery tap rooms and restaurants and so forth. As a result of this COVID, basically the on-premise business has totally been decimated. It's shut down. We see it all the time. We probably all read the articles about half of the restaurants and bars out there aren't going to make it coming out of this. It's a horrific story. It's absolutely awful. In the middle of it, our company, our founders, our team got together and basically said, what do we do about this? And one of the things that we did to at least try to help some of these local people that have been impacted in Seattle, in our backyard. We're a company that's all about local, by the way. All of our flavors, if we can't grow and source the ingredients in the Pacific Northwest, it's not going to be one of our flavors. Like many of the panelists here, we're located in Soto. But we have been for literally 18 months thinking about kind of our philanthropic side of who we are at the core. And we invented this concept called the P&W Clean Fund. And we've been looking for the right avenue to kind of launch that in the market in a meaningful way that can hopefully help people. And in doing so, we, when COVID hit, within 48 hours of it, our marketing team got together and created a program called Sip and Support, where at the end of the day, we contacted and coordinated with our distributors and our retailers, whereby any of our 12-pack product that they bought during the COVID period, the first 90 days of COVID period, we donated money to a fund that actually went to impacted restaurant owners and workers in this area. And at the end of the day, our goal was $20,000. We ended up donating almost $22,000 to this fund. And for a young startup little company like us, that's a pretty significant check for us to endure. But we felt it was the right thing to do, and we've never had any buyer's remorse for doing it.
And I think also, it feels good for the people purchasing it, knowing that, this product that they're bringing, off premise is going back to the community that's directly affected. So that's awesome. Fantastic. Do any of you guys want to take that on too?
I'll jump in. I think, for us, the majority of our business is around bringing people together and bringing people into this space. And we do a lot of food and wine pairings and events. And so when we were shut down, it's like, okay, our whole business model needs to shift. We can't bring people together. We can't host events. So we were really struggling to find a way, well, how can we bring events to people? And the collaborations that we've had, and a lot of them have been facilitated by our relationship with Seattle Made in putting together these dinner kits and really focusing on all of the other local businesses that are producing here in Seattle and bringing together products that people are making here and helping those businesses find a way to get out to the consumer through these dinner kits. So that's been a really fun collaboration and something that the consumers have enjoyed and we enjoyed being a part of as well. So
I have been following those and they look amazing. So
they're quite tasty. I can tell you from experience.
yeah, that's awesome. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, similar to Ron and Jody, that I think everybody on this panel has probably tried to take advantage of everything that was available to them. Particularly in the early months, we certainly did. We did a huge pivot within 48 hours of the governor's announcement back in March, to take advantage of things that we weren't necessarily doing or even thinking about, like third-party deliveries, direct-to-consumer shipping, not only in state but out of state. Various things like that. We also shifted, in our restaurant where previously it was sit down and table service, and we were already starting to think that was something that we were becoming too much of a restaurant and less of a tap room brewery, which we really didn't want that. So we now, when you come in, aside from all the social distancing and the safety measures we put in, people order at the bar, and when the food's up, they come up and get their food, like an English style pub, and everybody seems to like that, and we're probably going to stick with that. But I'm also proud of some of the things that we've done, like the South Seattle Brewers Coalition came together and did a really nice collaboration beer where we all used the same type of yeast. It was a Quebec, a Norwegian sort of origin yeast that we all brewed our own beers that was supposed to be when we thought we were going into the new phase of being open and stuff like that, which never happened. But it was just sort of a coming together and show of arms that we're all still here and trying to support each other. And then internally, we did something. We had this opportunity kind of fall in our laps right after the shutdown in March, where we were fortunate that we didn't have to lay off too many people, and a lot of those people were on standby. But those people, we were able to enroll them into a program where it was really about empowerment and kind of helping them figure out, things that they, maybe wanted to do in their career, in their future careers, and really just to kind of keep them sharp. So when they did come back, basically it wasn't like they were out for several weeks, out of touch. So we were able to offer that to all the employees that we did lay off, and that seemed to be a program that they all really enjoyed. So those were some of the things that we've been involved with.
Fantastic. I mean, this is really a question for everyone. So I just want to get Mara in here because, you guys have done a lot too. So
Yeah.
going online, doing your virtual tastings and concerts, and tell us more.
So, first of all, we had the opportunity on our beer side to do the isolation collaboration with Ghostfish, and it was really nice to see the resurgence of the South Seattle Brewery Coalition. I think one of the things that we've seen that's been a huge positive coming out of all of this is everyone kind of taking a step back to assess, prioritize, and then see how you can help other people. I find that even just in my day-to-day meetings with people, there's a lot more checking in and it feels very genuine. So I think that's something, it's so interesting to think that having to physically separate people has actually brought people together in a lot of ways. But yeah, this has been a year of innovation and flexibility. Okay, bring it on. What's next? We had to dive into e-commerce. We were thrilled though to be able to, we rebuilt our entire website on the beer side from bottom to top. We started shipping in 38 states through Vino Shipper. For a while, we were doing these wonderful live at local events. And we might bring those back. They were music events that we were doing for folks to be able to, A, we got to support local music artists, but B, like it was a really fun way to talk about our brand without having to like, and now a moment from our sponsor moments, because I don't know about you guys, but we're all missing live music a lot over here.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a time to kind of reassess and reprioritize. We'd been talking about doing direct to consumer shipping for quite some time, and it just continually got shuffled to a lower priority because we were doing so many other things, and then all of a sudden it was like top priority. And so yeah, it was just we spent a lot of time kind of figuring out what our game plan was and how we could make things work and continue to like reach our consumers. And it's interesting because both like the brewery and the cidery, we're sort of in different places when you look at like our business trajectory, right? Like our brewery, we keep it kind of small, really local. Certainly like people want their beer hyper local, and there's a lot of really good breweries in SoDo, which is awesome. I visit other ones frequently. And then on our cider side, like we've been able to get out there a little bit more, but in states where we don't distribute, we are now able to send cider direct to people. And so yeah, we've been doing a lot with like our e-commerce. I love these like concepts with tasting kits. They're really fun. A great way to try a bunch of things all at once, and then also still get these like really great interactions with folks. So we'll be doing more of that. We just did the Seattle Cider Summit. They're doing another Seattle Cider
I saw that. That's so cool.
We're going to be sharing some space in our warehouse for them to pack the kits here, which is great.
Cool.
Like, in a rare moment, we have a little bit of space for like the next month or so, and we're cans. As you guys see, I'm in my can fort.
Cans for days.
My living rooms. This is not my living room. My living room.
Yeah.
Good though. But yeah, so lots of new innovation, flexibility, just reprioritizing, reassessing, and then really like relationship building constantly, and I think that at the end of the day, that's the really important part, that like we're still able to connect with our customers, our vendors, our accounts. It looks different, but we're still doing it. And I think in a lot of ways, we're actually maybe even more accessible to our customers to answer questions. Like we're all online now. You can
totally.
find me. I'll answer it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So this next question, I'm going to start with Jody, because the question is, why'd you choose Seattle as your home base for your business? Because let's be honest, you originally started in Woodinville. So what was it about the city of Seattle, and what was the importance of you being here specifically?
That's a good one, because I actually originally started the winery in SoDo in 2006 and moved to Woodinville for a short stint.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Okay.
well, right? And it was a short stint. I had to come back to Seattle.
Yeah.
I think I grew up in Woodinville long before it was Woodinville wine country. It was not even a thing when I was growing up there, unfortunately. But having grown up there, I think I just escaped to the big city, and I didn't want to go back. And my home is here in the city, my community, my family, and I just really wanted the winery to be here. And our grapes obviously are all over in Eastern Washington. We can truck them wherever we want to. And we're so hands-on with wanting to know everything that's going on in every barrel at every moment, that it's nice to have it close to home, especially during harvest in those intense times. But I love the community here. I mean, I think there's some good things about the Woodinville wine community, and there were so many great producers there that would jump in and help at any moment. But we're building a small little network of the urban wineries, and it's great to see it growing here and becoming more of a prominent part of our city landscape. And hopefully that continues through this crazy year. Yeah, I love Seattle. It's my home, and I want the business here close to home.
Awesome. Well, I would say I want to ask this of Brian and Ron too. I mean, Mara, I love you, but you didn't really choose to be in Seattle. But I'm just curious, like as a business owner, I mean, are there some business sides of things? Is it like foot traffic? Did you, are you wanting, was it a specific place in Soto that you wanted to be because there was other producers there, or take it on, Brian?
Okay, thanks, Kristen. Well, there's not a lot of foot traffic in the part of Soto that we're at, so that wasn't one of our top priorities. But I will admit that we had a strong admiration for being part of the manufacturing history of this city. When we made the decision, and truth be told, actually, because myself and the original owner and the other co-founder, both at the time 8 years ago, and I still actually live in Northeast Tacoma. We were actually investigating starting the brewery in Tacoma, but we made the decision to come to Seattle because we felt like, from a population standpoint and demographics, it offered more, but also from a prestige standpoint, that Seattle is world renowned for the breweries that exist here and stuff, and we really wanted to be part of that. And so we never really looked at any other place. I mean, I like to my favorite saying is that you could swing a cat and hit a brewery in Ballard. So we really had no interest, and that's not a disrespect to Ballard or any of the breweries that call Ballard home, but we never really looked at places like that. We always had our heart and our mind set on Soto, and it just sort of worked out, as far as where we landed. But, it was also my background, my professional background before I started Ghost Fish was I spent 25 years in the aluminum can industry. So all those aluminum cans that are part of Mara's living room there, that was my life for 25 years. And actually,
Not about business to be in right now. Let's just say that.
yeah, that's a tough business to be in right now. But Two Beers and Seattle Cider, amongst many others here in the city, were customers of mine, and a lot of friendships were formed. And like Ron was saying before this program started about the collaboration that exists, even amongst us here in Soto. The folks at Seattle Cider and Two Beers have always been very kind to Ghost Fish. We actually held our before we were even open, we held a sort of pre-opening tasting event at the old Two Beers. For those of you that remember what the old tasting room looked like.
Oh yeah.
They opened that up, shut down, and allowed us to turn that into Ghost Fish for a night, just so we could kind of get our name out there and let people start tasting the beer. And so that's, to me, like what probably attracted me most was this the spirit that exists amongst, not just in the beer industry, because Ron and I have a very good relationship and share our teams, share information and stuff like that. This is cross industry, different basically beverages and spirits and wine and such. So it's fun to be part of this.
That's great. And Ron, I mean, I know the old space that you were in, and I used to frequent it quite often. So I was really excited to see you guys go in there, but then all of a sudden you guys took over. Let's be real. So why did you guys decide Seattle?
Well, it's funny because
and what's the connection with San Juan?
Yeah, so our founder, my business partner, Katie Anger, the whole idea was spawned on the deck of their family home up in the San Juan Islands.
Okay.
She and her girlfriends were having a girls' weekend. This goes back 3.5 years ago, drinking vodka sodas, and then all of a sudden, one of her friends showed up with this thing called Truly, and after a few Trulies and after a few San Juan seltzers, Katie's just sitting there saying, "We can do this," we should make a huckleberry infused vodka or a seltzer or something, and Katie and her husband Kyle and I have been friends socially for a better part of a decade. We coach football together here, a really tight community socially, and from a friendship standpoint. But more than anything, we didn't know what we were going to do. We were looking at co-packers. in Oregon, Eastern Washington, Seattle, all over the place. At the end of the day, we wanted to be in a great community, as both Mara and Brian were talking about, and Jody earlier. I mean, being surrounded by all this talent. There's a reason why Facebook moved so many people to Seattle, and they want to be talent, and they want to be around other talent. And in our case, we do talk a lot. I was over at Seattle Cider a week and a half ago, checking out a piece of equipment. I was at Ghostfish a while ago, but our production teams are going back and forth helping because we bought a piece of equipment that Brian was evaluating on whether it would meet their needs. And then in the middle of that, his production person left, and they needed some help how to figure out how to run it and put it together and how to lay it out. And man, to be part of that type of community where you've got a support system is invaluable, especially as a young company that in our case is in a category that's brand new. It's not wine, it's not beer, it's not, we have the only seltzery in North America. What the hell was seltzer back then? I mean,
well, first of all, seltzery wasn't even a word a few years ago. So good job.
Well, thank you. And now, as you know, Kristen, we now own it, that trademark in North America. And so we are the only production seltzery in North America and always will be. But the other piece is, as it relates specifically to Seattle on the other front, Seattle's known for innovation and cool and hip and cutting edge stuff. And that's why people want to be here. Yeah. But we wanted to be part of that coolness, we wanted to be in an area, destination area that's got access to all this cool stuff, all these stadiums and people going in and out of the area and being located between SeaTac and all these sporting venues and all these great wineries and cideries and breweries in the area. It's just, how can you not want to be part of that?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I have to add the fabric down in Soto. It's amazing. I mean, there's so many different artists that are hiding in these little buildings that it's fun to explore and just expose yourself to all the things that are actually being produced in the city and all these artists that are doing things that they're passionate about and love. And they're all hiding, it seems like, in these little tiny buildings and warehouses in Soto.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It is very fun. I quite enjoy it. In fact, it is kind of my go-to Seattle spot when I've people in town or whatever, because it's like you've got like this basically 3-block radius of just like all these amazing producers and seltzeries and breweries and wineries and everything. So I hear you. It's a good one. Okay, so let's just kind of take COVID out of here. And if we're talking about, if there's somebody looking to get into the beverage industry, they want to start their own beverage company, whether that's cider or kombucha or whatever, what advice, maybe one piece of advice that you have to give them, no COVID, just business advice. Like, what is the one thing that you wish somebody would have just told you getting into this business?
Can I take this one? Well, okay, so to be fair, I did not start either of these companies, but I'm going to give shout outs to a couple of places that I know are great for networking, which, right, like we just talked about how important it is to have connections either in similar industries or in like the same industry. While yes, like there's some competition, there's also so much collaboration, and people will tell you what they need, what you need to know, right? Like nobody wants to see anyone else fail. There's room for all of us to succeed.
Yep.
So as far as going into the cider industry, you can become a member of things like the American Cider Association. Their member hub has an insane amount of resources. There are like Facebook groups, there are, tons of lists of like things. You can just get connected with people and know that you are finding the right people to ask the right questions. Likewise, there are like brewers associations, there's the Northwest Cider Association, there's the Washington Brewers, like there's a ton of resources out there that exist. But don't stop there, right? At that point, like if you join any of those like associations or like memberships and find other members, it's a great way to network. And then you find those people who will answer questions about equipment, or, you know, to have somebody to like be your sounding board to talk about like, okay, I have this crazy idea for a recipe. Is this even doable? Or I don't know, somebody to brainstorm with, because I do think it's really important to have some good connections in the industry so that you have that hive mind, that info share. And like people won't turn you away. Like there's room for all of us to succeed here. And I think that's so important. So it's a great way to get a network.
Totally. And no longer are the days that you can just be this like, you know, winemaker that makes this incredible wine and like, you know, head down and like your wine is just going to sell, you know, like, I think that's such a good point. Like, don't think of it as competitors, you know, think of it as collaborations, you know? And I mean, I'm even currently working with other magazines and publishers to like figure out how to like, you know, group together and be stronger because, you know, there's room, like you said, there's just room for all of us. So I agree.
Well, in this like internet world that we're in right now, all of that information is at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And so you can find it, right? Like you can figure out how to make cider or how to make beer. Like you could buy a book or you can like find it online. There's probably like many YouTube things that'll tell you how. But I think that the piece that's irreplaceable is having those like that network, those connections, the people that you can kind of have somebody to call on to say, hey, I have a question, or like, do you want to taste this and see if it's okay? That's really important.
Totally.
Well, and I think that's key too. I mean, when I started the winery, I wish somebody would have told me that it required a lot of patience. I think what's unique about wine is, you know, it takes years before you have a product that's ready to introduce to the market. So it definitely takes a lot of patience, and you only get 1 year, you know, every year you only get one opportunity to make that vintage. So you get one chance at harvest in order to have this great inventory that's going to be ready in several years for the public to enjoy. So, so it's pretty critical.
Don't rush things.
Yes, don't rush things, right? What is it? No wine before it's time. Was it Orson Welles said, and it's true. But I think the biggest component to it is, I think, even what drew me to wine, it's that romance of the combination of science and art that comes together to create this amazing beverage that people enjoy with food. But the key component to it is the marketing and the sales. And so it's like, you've got to know what you're good at and where you need to bring in additional help and really lean on people who have the skill sets to round out your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, for me, you know, it is, I'm going to blend a couple things together, but I mean, you know, thinking about you, Jody, when I was in the wine business, I went to a company called Franciscan Estates. We had 7 wineries at the time, you know, Quintessa being, you know, kind of at the top end, and the low end was Vedamonte from Chile. Each one of them, I mean, the bulk of them, you know, they were on the same site. You know, for a number of them, the same winemaker were making different brands. There wasn't a true kind of unique unfair advantage or true unique points of difference. My advice to people is to really dig deep before you even do this, before you start, to really figure out not only what problem you're solving or what opportunity, you know, that you're filling for, but what is truly unique about your product, meaning in a good way, you know, because being unique can be really bad too, right? And so, you know, as Jody was saying, be patient. It's gonna take you a lot longer than you expect. It's gonna cost you a lot more than you expect, but do not ever move forward until you prove out your concept. I mean, make sure you sit back and make sure the dogs are eating the dog food. But more than anything else, find that true unique point of difference, that unfair advantage that is so unique and different in a good way that no matter how big, you know, the big guys or gals get, they can't take that away from you.
You have a story. You have to have a story. I mean, we say this all the time in the magazine. It's like, well, everyone has a story, but I mean, it's true. It's like, you really have to have that locked in, and because you're going to be asked that constantly, and it's going to be that same, you know, like, you have to know what your ethos is, what your brand is, and what sets you apart from everyone else. So
yeah, and it could be, you know, a executive chef on your staff. It could be a unique vineyard. It could be you're the first gluten-free beer, you know, in that area. Whatever it is, find it and leverage the hell out of it.
yeah, awesome. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, well said with the other panelists. I would agree with all that. And just to kind of maybe hammer home the patience theme, I was going to say that, that this is definitely not a sprint. I mean, Ron may be in a sprint, but, this is definitely a marathon. And, I did have some friends in the industry that did tell me, even though that it probably wasn't enough, that, hey, whatever amount of money you think you're going to need to start this project, just like you're going to need more than that. And so I would say even go further than that. You're really going to need to have, your funding, well thought out, and obviously do your due diligence. But, one of the things that I saw a lot of while I was selling cans to a lot of beverage companies, because it wasn't just breweries, it was craft cider, craft coffee, craft mead, whatever, that people wanted to put in a can. And a lot of these startups were people who, it's a great place to start, and there's no shame about this, but home brewers or creating the wine in their garage or cider in their house. And obviously you're going to get a lot of feedback from people that love you, and they're going to tell you, this is the best that I've ever tasted. And, it's easy to get kind of swept up in that. And and maybe you do have the best, whatever it is, but to not lose sight of the fact that it's still a business, and you really need to treat it as such. And I think that there are times that it's easy to get swept up into the product that you're producing and forget about basically the foundations, the foundational aspects of the business that will keep the lights on and keep your employees paid and keep you vibrant for the future. So that would be probably my biggest piece of advice. But I agree with Ron. I want to just say this, that if you believe in your product, don't let anybody take that away from you. I mean, and again, I'm a firm believer in that. It's about just the power of thought and believing in yourself, and not to necessarily let other people rain on your parade or steal your dream. So if you gotta maintain that hope and weather the storms and stay strong. And if you believe in yourself, I think all things are possible.
I mean, you'll always have those naysayers. You just need 10 more of those, optimistic people
Sure.
to negate that. But okay, so I'm looking at the time, and I do think we want to get in some questions from some of the audience. So if you guys have questions, drop them in the chat, and we're going to get to those soon. But I have a couple more questions here. And this is this should be a quick one, but it is, interesting. So it's December 31st coming up. Looking back at 2020 as a whole, what would you say your motto or tagline is from 2020? Jody, go ahead.
Oh, I was like, I'll let somebody else take that one.
Okay, well,
It's like, yeah, just keep going, right? We'll get to the other side.
I hear you.
I would say be nimble, right? I mean, look for the opportunities. They're there. They're hard to find in this environment. But when you find it, you're going to be fine. And by the way, fine's okay, people. You don't have to hit the ball out of the park.
Yep.
Watch the World Series. You're going to get hit by some pitches, but I'll tell you, singles, sacrifices, all those things are what get there. And as Brian said, continue to believe, continue to work hard, find those opportunities. They're there. Don't get out a shovel and dig a hole. We're all in holes right now. Don't let anybody kid you. This is I've been at this a long, long time. I never thought I'd ever experience anything like this. And the impact it's having on everybody, not just from a sales or revenue standpoint or from a marketing standpoint, the fact that people can't socialize the way we've done before, the fact that all these parents have kids at home that can't go to school and see their friends, it's affecting everybody's relationships. It's affecting everyone's business. You're not alone. As one of the panelists said earlier, it was brilliant what you said. should have wrote it down about how this, oh gosh, how this situation has brought us actually closer together. One of you are brilliant. I'm going to cut, I missed it. And I just absolutely blew it. But don't be afraid to reach out to people, ask for help, and network more now, because we all need that support, all of us at all levels.
Absolutely.
And I definitely think, looking back on the year, of the one thing we're going to appreciate more than anything is how I think so many different businesses and people in the community have really come together to support one another, and across all different fields in every aspect. And I really think that's something that we hopefully hang on to for a long time, because it's the good that's coming out of this last year for sure.
And it was more a separation of people that brought us closest together.
Yeah.
Great quote, Maura.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I'd have to just throw in my little, 2 cents and take some lyrics from Rick Ross and say, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling. Because I'll tell you what, I have never worked so damn hard in my whole entire life. So, woo! But it's been good. And then let's get to one more. Yeah. One other question, because you know what, we are here for Seattle Made, and Seattle Made is such a great organization. And whether you're a new member or you've been there for a while, what would you share with other producers that are some of the benefits of being part of this community? I mean, like specifics,
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that one, or at least start off.
Yeah.
So, there's a tremendous amount of benefit being a member of Seattle Made. Probably too many to go into, but being in this pandemic, I really have been thankful. I was like very genuinely thankful for the fact that we've had involvement with several organizations. Seattle Made is definitely at the top of that list. The Brewers Guild, the Brewers Association, and things like that. But over the first couple of months, it was like, what the, holy, and things where information was like coming so fast, and, you're trying to run your business, and you're trying to, save your business, and you're trying to maintain your employees, but then there's all these changes coming. And thank goodness for the folks at Seattle Made, because behind the scenes, they had the time to absorb all this information and, get it out to all of us, in a way that was like very calming. And it was like, yes, there are people that can help us, and there are resources, and here's where I click to go for this information. So, I think Seattle Made, has again stepped up to the plate during this pandemic in a big way. But take the pandemic aside, or before, pre-pandemic, and whatever the post-pandemic looks like, Seattle Made is a great organization to be in collaboration, as we all been talking about, how you can make those connections with other producers, and be part of this wonderful fabric of Seattle.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I found that really quickly, and just say, I will say, I actually read the newsletters that come out from Seattle Made, because the resources in there are really helpful. There's a fair number of things that I subscribe to that I'll read whatever the title headline is of the e-newsletter and be like, okay, that doesn't apply. I'll open them up. I look at them. You're right. They've been distilling down sort of all of this massive information to things that you need in the moment, that are pertinent and that are very helpful to small businesses. And that is so incredibly valuable. I've been doing programming like this forever. This is not the first panel I've sat on. I got to work with a group of folks and sit on a panel about sustainability. They have these great focused programs. They're uplifting Seattle businesses. They're offering a ton of value add out there for the businesses and for consumers to see these are Seattle products.
Yeah.
I love that, because there's definitely a certain amount of Seattle pride, right? We all
I think we all are just wanting to do our best to support local at this time. Please support local, everybody, support local. But yeah, it's a great resource to be able to support consumers, feel good about their purchases.
The other piece of, something we all need, right? This is just bloody fun, right? I mean, I get to hang with all you incredible people.
I'm having a great time over
I
here.
know, right?
Oh, we've been-
Cheers.
Yeah, we've been drinking
Let's
since
do a
noon,
cheers,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, but all kidding aside, I mean, to hang around with great people and smile and have fun and
Yeah.
learn from them. I mean, gosh, we all need a little more of that in our life, right? Always.
Totally. I
So,
absolutely
you.
agree. And
Yeah.
I think we're doing okay on time. And so I did kind of skip over one question, but this is always something I really like to ask business owners. And what the question is, what was the driving force behind the launch of your company? Was it a family business, a personal passion, filling in a gap in an underserved area in your industry, or just something completely different?
For me, it was definitely a personal passion. And I think for most people probably that start in the wine industry specifically, it's definitely has to have that passion behind it, especially when you balance it with the patience. But I had been working for a company that every Thursday they would gather around the wine bar and they'd share lessons learned. And for me, it was really the sense of community building. And then I started going out and visiting wineries and meeting winemakers and visiting the vineyards. And you kind of get caught up in that romanticism around wine, but then really realize it's easy to do. But then when you really start to learn about what it is that is involved in actually making and producing a glass of wine and all the science and the farming and yes, all the different components that make up a glass of wine, there's just so much depth and things to learn from, that delving into that world has been quite the roller coaster. But it's really the passion behind it that keeps it going. And I wanted to create a sense of community and bring people together around wine and food. And we often bring in chefs to the winery and focus on different pairings and explore different regions of the world. And it's just fun to see people coming together around food and wine and meeting new friends, sharing stories and the experiences that you create as a part of it. So it's the passion for the wine, but the community building that results.
Totally.
Yeah, and for me, it's got to, much like to the other panelists, I got to have passion for it. But my criteria for anything I do, whether it's serving on a board, for my kids' high school girls select basketball team, or running the business, or whatever I do in life, I got to have passion for it. But I also feel like I got to be able to add value. I also feel like I have an opportunity to learn, and I'm interested in learning about it. The fourth thing, I like the people. I got, at the end of the day, you got to like the people. And then something that came up as a theme earlier, whatever it is, it's got to have a reasonable chance of being successful. And to me, that means it's got to have a true, unique, positive point of difference in some way. So that's kind of my 5 criteria. And, I answer your question maybe a little bit differently, but for me, I'm not going to get involved with or start or build or invest in anything unless those, 4 hurdles are met.
Those boxes. Awesome.
Looks like
Yeah.
you joined us.
I think Andrew is jumping on because
For a reason, yeah.
I see a good question because
Yeah.
let me jump on this one. Brandon
Okay.
Eller of Mr. B's Mead.
Mhm.
We should talk, by the way. He just opened up the only meadery in Seattle, and he's asking, where should I focus my sales, bottles to go, wholesale delivery? Do you guys have any advice for him?
What is the product? Can you tell us a little more about it?
It is a meadery.
It's me.
What kind? Is it fresh meat or?
Brandon, I've allowed you to speak if you're interested in telling us more.
Yeah, it will help us, I think, give better kind of advice. I don't know.
Brandon, join us.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Brandon.
Hi, yeah, so I make honey wine, sweet, dry, semi-sweet, everything in between. So yeah, fermented honey.
How are you packaging it?
750 milliliter bottles, 375s, 100 milliliters. I'm doing sparkling mead in 12-ounce bottles here soon. I work for Craft Canning and Bottling, and I'm about to can my mead as well. So I'll probably get that more wholesale, but anything that is anything I can get my hands on.
I would say that it's a smart decision to be in bottles right now. I would probably probably lean a little bit heavier into bottles with the can shortage that's going on and will likely continue for the next couple of years. But I think, Brandon, because of the fact that as you know, I mean, I haven't done the research. I'll trust you on this, that you're the only meadery in Seattle. I don't know of any others. So you can probably lean into that. And as Ron had said, you know, leverage something that's unique, a uniqueness that you have. And I would agree with that. Now's not really the time, or at least from my perspective, that a lot of distributors are looking to bring on new brands. However, because of the uniqueness, you might be able to get your foot in the door there. So I might, if I were you, focus on, direct to consumer right now. There's a lot of great resources out there that are helping businesses do that, particularly beverage-based businesses do that right now.
And specifically for mead, I know that mead is falling in the same lines as cider right now, and Vino Shipper is definitely one you should get in touch with. I've been working with them quite extensively with our Cider Craft magazine, and I know Mara is too. Definitely want to reach out. If you have packaged product, it's they basically make it so easy for you to ship out. So
yeah, I'd say there's like a lot to dive into. Like it's a whole lot of question to answer. You can feel free to, I can't reach my keyboard from here without being a little bit too close right now. There's a reason. Anyway, if I'm happy to share my email, you can hit me up, like let me know. I'm again happy to info share. So as we're just talking about that, like I'll put my money where my mouth is and be like, yeah, happy to, like, let's hop on a call and I can get you some contact information for people at Vino Shipper, or talk about like direct to consumer, or tell you to, hit up bottle shops and get a couple placements that way, and, pound some pavement. It's definitely, it's a marathon, not a sprint, but yeah.
well, also I would say too, owning a beverage magazine, I mean, it's really smart to get in front of some of the different publications right now that specifically cover beverage, because they are more than happy for you to drop off samples to them, and they'll try it and they'll give you honest feedback. But if you can get a good review, or a story or something that then you can take to some of these bottle shops and say, look at, like, it's not just me, but they actually, were able to taste it and they like my product too. That's a great third party endorsement to kind of help you through some of those sales processes.
All great advice. The other thing I would just add is create a success story for yourself. It doesn't have to be big, I mean, literally it could be 2 outlets, or, if you really do have a great product and a great unique story, I bet you there's people on this line that'd be happy to introduce you to the buyer at Metropolitan Market, if that's of interest. I'm happy to do that. And I'm sure that at minimum, you could get your product and your story in front of the buyer there. Again, unfortunately, I don't know anything about your brand or the product. I apologize for that. But that's the spirit of what, we're all on this call about, and that's to help other people. We've all been there, right? But at the end of the day, find some people that can help you create a success. Don't try to do too much. Don't ever be seduced into doing too much. In one of my prior ventures, I raised $3 million after being in 16 stores. It was the right 16 stores.
Yeah.
I built the right story. So you don't have to be big. Create small wins. Find people that can help you.
Yeah, and I think that collaboration is key, and there's so many people that are willing to jump in and help and provide advice and guidance and introductions. So yeah, lean on the people in the community.
Thank you.
I'd like to try your product before I introduce you and hear your story, if that's of interest. But yeah, there's people on this call that I'm sure are willing to help
and there's a strong mead community. That's very much like cider was, even though mead is so old, well, so is cider. It's just getting kind of having this resurgence again. So seek out some of the other like communities that are part of, these mead producers, which sometimes fall in line with cider. So, you might want to look at some cider things, too, because although it is not made from apples, it's made from honey. It is, they seem to like have this, like they coexist somehow. So
It's probably the same licensing, I would imagine. Like it's
Yeah.
it's not brewed, like it's not distilled, right? Because you're fermenting mead. So like, however that decision. Yeah. Anyway, yes.
Cool.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to say I'll get everybody connected after this. And thank you so much for everyone offering your support of Brandon. So we're getting close to 7:30. So I don't know, Kristen, would you like to wrap it up with anything?
I mean, honestly, I just our whole, mission statement, I guess, is really about supporting local and finding the stories behind these producers, because once you fall in love or have an interest in the actual producer that's doing this, then you just automatically love their product. You just have this bias. And so just get out there and like Mara said, like order, ciders online, try to get things at home if you don't feel comfortable going out. Most people are shipping direct, and just whatever you can do to support the local community. And and the local media community as well.
Yeah.
But no, I thank you guys for all joining us. I think this was a super fun panel. I got to have some wine with my friends and colleagues, and Seattle Made is awesome. And you certainly should look into this and be part of this. And if you're a consumer, you should just go onto their website and find out who is supporting local. So, producing local. Woo, wine.
Thank you so much, everyone. This was great. And we'll be sending out the details I have here on the screen to everyone attending and who signed up as well. So thanks so much. It was a super fun event, and, just warmed my heart to hear all these great stories of collaboration and supporting local. So thank you.
Well,
Anna.
cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Good night.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Good night.